Imagine, if you will, trying to learn a language. It can be frustrating sometimes, right? Attempting to understand entirely new words and sentence structure. Now, imagine if you had to learn that language by playing charades with an alien velociraptor. With that context in mind, this was going surprisingly well. After a few hours of back and forth with Vavi, it seemed like we had both obtained at least a rudimentary understanding of each other's languages, enough to communicate basic concepts and semi-define new words.
Human ship from?
Inquired Vavi, tossing her head feathers aside in what amounted to a body language question mark. Tossing those three simple words around in my head, I quickly came to the conclusion that she was wondering where I'd come from. Such a question was easy to ask and very much expected from a fellow scientist. However, for me, trying to teach astronomy through interpretive dance held roughly the same appeal as deep-throating a cactus, which is to say very little. So, standing from my prior position and reflexively dusting off my perfectly clean lab coat, I gestured rather pointlessly for Vavi to follow me as I began my long, treacherous journey to my desktop not 5 steps away. While it was clear she understood what the ship's computer was, still something about it seemed to fascinate Vavi. Approaching the device alongside me, I could already see her visibly picking it apart in her mind, craning her neck as though to take in its every angle and feature. Clicking my way through all the computer's needlessly complicated user interfaces, eventually I was able to navigate into my ship's route log. After a brief series of loading screens and followed by 3 whole walls of error text about me being off course, a map of the nearby star systems twinkled into view, centered on one particular little yellow dot around which this planet was orbiting. A K-class star, one lower on the main sequence than Sol, a G-class, making it both more abundant and longer living than our sun. Practically ideal for life. Lucky bastards, I mused to myself ironically. Behind me, I could feel Vavi's piercing gaze glinting off the monitor as a little red line traced my lightly zigzagging path along a 3-dimensional graph of the Milky Way, eventually landing on Earth in the Sol system. From there, I said, pointing to the indicated star. Taking Vavi's stunned expression as permission to continue my lesson, I double-clicked on the Sol system and from it conjured a perfectly rendered image of the planets orbiting therein. Then, zooming in on the replica solar system's 3rd planet, I placed my fingertip below its name and with resting it there, craned my neck to face the alien scientist. Earth. Frantically scribbling down notes with her species equivalent of a pencil, Vavi nodded along with my explanation.
Earth.
She enunciated carefully, spelling the planet's name in her native language, before then stepping even closer to the computer and nervously jabbing a claw at the screen.
Maxton1811.
She commanded slowly, giving me time to translate it. Trobod means repeat. Ormog is home, so she wants me to go back and view this system. Complying with Vavi's request, I quickly retraced my steps back to the system in which I currently found myself and selected a closer view. While we hadn't had any detailed images of this place when I first set out, the ship's AI rendering system was designed to fill in blanks based on its imaging software, so it came as no surprise seeing the detailed planetary images. Only 5 planets orbited this system, 4 terrestrials and 1 gas giant a bit larger than Jupiter. The first planet was a classic victim of the runaway greenhouse effect, not unlike our Venus. Planet 4 was rather interesting. At first glance, it looked like a verdant paradise, but those blues and greens weren't from water and plants, but instead a dead surface of oxidized copper. The third was a veritable super-Earth, with easily twice the radius of humanity's cradle world. Its oxygen-rich surface and large ocean looked ideal for a biosphere, and the strange orange splotches across its surface suggested an alternative form of chlorophyll used by the plants there. If I had been shown this system and asked to wager on which one we'd find civilization on, it'd be that one. I would have lost a lot on money on that one. Indeed, my ship's beacon was currently broadcasting from the second planet, a somewhat smaller world than Earth, with only about half the surface area. Of that surface, only about 40% was on land, centralized on what appeared to be two halves of a fragmenting supercontinent with a few island archipelagos dotted elsewhere.
Archessa.
Vavi cooed reverently, looking upon her homeworld as though seeing it in its entirety for the very first time. Small size aside, their planet was a beautiful place. It almost reminded me of those artists' renditions of Mars, had it still an atmosphere. Those images always instilled in me a strange sense of mourning for Earth's stillborn sister, a longing for what could have been. I wondered at times if maybe had it just a slightly larger core, then perhaps humanity might have had company, exploring the stars with our fellow children of Sol. Optimistic, sure, but a nice thought nonetheless. A small pop-up icon at the bottom of my computer screen quickly returned me to the present with its annoying ringtone. Before sending me off on this trip, the other lab techs insisted that they'd install some content to keep my mind sharp while I was out here. Unfortunately, it seemed the team of 5 talented engineers hadn't thought to turn off the notifications when installing things in sensitive technology. Luckily, I wasn't in the middle of anything life or death, because if I had been, that message from Cleo, the language tutor AI, might have taught me what the word die means, by example. Why'd they even install a linguistics AI on this thing? Yes, I'm sure it keeps your mind sharp to learn something new, but what use could I possibly have for learning more Earth languages? Rolling my eyes at the useless notification, I casually dragged my cursor over to the large X button next to it. Unfortunately, I had waited too long to do so, as the notification had begun receding, shifting aside cancel button and instead causing me to click the application. Oh, you've got to be joking. This stupid piece of... Immediately, the screen went black, as in its very center, a small mascot icon resembling a cutesy rendition of Cleopatra began to speak at full deafening volume.
Hello, I am Cleo, the Computerized Language Education Overseer. I am here to help you learn any language you want to know. I'm excited to do some learning of my own, as my database can be updated to include entirely new dictionaries if need be. Please right-click to get started on your language adventure.
Maneuvering my cursor all about in search of the exit button, I eventually found it centered right on the forehead of Vavi's reflection. Wait a minute. A language app? I had a self-learning linguistic AI this entire time. Am I a fucking idiot?
Thank you for watching. Like, share and subscribe for more original content. New chapters and standalone stories uploaded weekly.